Hey guys, today was the first round of the World Cup final, which is taking place right now in Tromsø in Norway. And the players in the World Cup final are Vladimir Kramnik and Dmitry Andreikin. Both are Russian players. Vladimir Kramnik is right now the third best player in the world, according to his ELO. And Dmitry Andreikin is also a really strong player, above 2700, but maybe not too many expected him to see him in the finals. So today was the first of overall 4 games, and Kramnik played with the white pieces. We start with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, and now Andreikin decided to transition in a queen's gambit position here with d5. Knight c3, bishop e7, bishop g5. These positions are rather quiet or positional, and there's not too much going on. Some might even say it's pretty boring. But this is actually exactly what Kramnik likes to play. He has maybe a small edge and tries to squeeze and slowly increase his advantage. So now Andreikin played h6, bishop h4, castle e3, b6, bishop d3, and now after white moved his bishop, now takes on c4, so white kind of loses the tempo because he has to take back now and move his bishop again. Bishop b7, castle at b7, both sides play normal development moves, queen e2, connecting the rooks, normal square for the queen, a6, rook fd1, and now Andreikin played knight d5. He wants to exchange the bishops to get more space, because right now white has the space advantage, he has the center, so black is kind of lacking some squares here. But Kramnik doesn't exchange the bishops. He could have done it. He could have, for example, played knight takes d5, e takes d5. Notice that the bishop can't take really, because then white would take on e7 and take on a6. So e takes d5, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, bishop d3. This might be also slightly better for white, just a little bit, because he is kind of the better bishop. This bishop is kind of looking at this pawn d5 and is not doing anything. Black will continue with c5, and well, it's a completely different kind of position. So instead he played this pawn bishop g3. Now knight takes c3, pawn takes c3, and bishop d6 again. Andreikin wants to exchange bishops, or maybe even more importantly, maybe free this square on e7 for the queen. So now Kramnik played e4, which is now kind of threatening e5, and black would need to go back with his bishop, so instead of doing that he exchanges now bishops on g3 and plays b5, bishop d3, and knight b6. Well, Kramnik played queen e3 now, but maybe it was interesting to play bishop c2 instead, to prevent black from playing knight a4, as it will happen in the game. And it is not a big deal to give it away this square, because then white could continue with a4 and kind of try to open the queen side and attack these pawns. So it would be advantageous, it would be better for white. After queen e3, Andreikin played kind of a nice maneuver. He played knight a4, attacking pawn c3, and after bishop c2, played knight b2, and now the knight goes to c4 with tempo. Rook db1, knight c4, and queen c1. And it is kind of obvious what Kramnik wants to play. He wants to continue with a4 and open some lines here and attack the pawn b5. Andreikin played c5. He cannot really prevent his plan, so plays c5, which is a standard move to attack the center and open up the position. And Kramnik played a4. Well, a pawn on c5 is not really a sacrifice if white takes. Black just plays queen c7, and there's no way for white to defend the pawn on c5, so black will just take it back and has pleasant play. So a4, c takes d4, c takes d4, rook c8. Rook c8 is fine, but it was also possible to just play queen d7 and say a takes b5, a takes b5, bishop d3, and now just rook fc8, and everything is set up harmonically and black is doing completely fine. Also after rook c8, black is doing fine. A takes b5, a takes b5, and now Kramnik moved his queen away out of this line. He played queen e1. Well, the pawn cannot be taken really. It can be taken, but just plays queen knight d6, attacking the rook and protecting a bishop on b7, and also attacking a pawn on e4. So for example, rook c5, now black just takes on e4 and the positions completely equal. So queen e1 instead. So now the pawn is hanging. So Andreikin played bishop c6. Again, queen d7 was also possible, but he had this idea in mind to play rook a8 here, and if white takes, he could take with the queen and would have a nice look on this diagonal. But Kramnik played better. He played rook d1, and now it gets kind of tricky. Andreikin played rook a3, which looks like a active, strong move, and indeed, you know, objectively it is a good move, but as we will see, it gets practically really difficult to play for black. So instead, he might have played a move like rook a6. The idea is that after d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, now the queen sacrifice, which we will see in the game, is not working here really. If now rook e8, d takes c6, rook takes e1, I takes e1, queen c7, now this rook is also taking upon c6, and this is just not working for white. So you would need to play queen c3 here instead, and then just bishop d7, and black should be alright, even though white is still maybe has some initiative. But should be alright here. No. So now after rook a3, d5, e takes d5, e takes d5. Now Andreikin played rook e8. I was just wondering why. I mean, it looks really strange to take this pawn here and go into a pin. I just want to figure out what exactly happens here. I would guess rook takes b5, attacking the bishop. And now, well, there's not much left, I guess. Knight b6. And for example, white could take on b6, but I would guess there's even something stronger. Well, I cannot. Well, rook b6 should be already really good for white in the least case. Maybe queen b4 is also possible. I feel like there's even something stronger in rook takes b6. Anyway, what I want to say, if black plays bishop d7 instead, then white could continue with queen e4, threatening mate, g6, and queen f4, and this is probably just slightly better for white. At least pleasant. And Kramnik showed a variation in the post-mortem analysis. Queen e7, now white can take on h6 because queen takes b4 it's answered by knight g5. And if rook takes f3, then rook takes c4. And this position is better for white. Back to the game, rook e8, and now queen sacrifice, which is objectively speaking, if you look at it with the computer says black is still fine, it's still equal, but from a practical point of view, it is so difficult to play for black. So difficult. Rook takes e1, knight takes e1. The main point here is that black cannot protect his pawn on b5 because of the back rank mate. So he plays queen c7, now loses the pawn, and now he plays g6, good move in order to avoid any back rank things. And now I'm going to play rook c5, and maybe knight e5 is now the first step into the wrong direction. I mean, it is really difficult. Maybe knight d6, which looks kind of strange because you always need to watch out for like rook d6, queen takes d6 and c7. Right now it's not working because the rook on c5 is hanging. But it turns out might be the best try for black. So right now black is threatening rook a6, so for example bishop d3. And we'll now just play on king g7. And it is not so easy for white to make progress. He would like to get his knight maybe somehow to d5, but it's not so easy to accomplish. So, but still, position should be easier to play for white, definitely. Knight e5, now bishop e4. Well, again, I'm not sure, knight g4, maybe just play king g7 instead. Yeah. I don't know. It remains difficult. Knight g4, knight e3. King g7. Bishop f3, knight f6. And now Kramnik plays knight b4 with the intention to exchange the knights on d5. Okay, so I played h5, a useful move. This is always like the standard pawn structure, which is said to be best for black in any kind of defense system because, well, pawns protect each other and the king is kind of safe. He has enough air to breathe. So Kramnik didn't play knight d5 immediately. He first prepared with rook dc1. And, well, there's not much black can do. He played rook a7, knight d5, takes d5, bishop takes d5. And now he played queen d8. But it looks like the resulting endgame we will see in a second is just losing. He could have tried f5 instead. Bishop f3, f6, b5. Now maybe play the rook to a8, but to be honest, probably this is also just losing. White has to show some technique, but in the end, he should be winning this. So queen d8. And it was also possible to go on with rook b5 here, rook c7, rook b7. This also looks really promising for white. But it seems like c7 is strong enough. Rook takes c7, rook takes c7, queen takes d5. Now we have an endgame, two rooks against the queen. Well, but the problem for black is that the two rooks can attack, for example, one pawn, the pawn on f7, and if black protects with queen and king, then still white can take, and he enters a pawn endgame with a pawn up, which is in most cases winning. So this is the problem here for black. Now I played rook e1, obviously planning to play rook e7, king h6, rook e7, f6, and the other big thing black has to worry about is his king and some mating ideas. So this here really difficult to play for black, and I'm pretty sure it is already lost. It is just a matter of how difficult black can make it for white. Rook e d7, a strong move to force the queen on a worse square. Queen a5, good move. And now f4, which is obviously threatening mate on h7. So g5 only move. And now just a quiet move, king h2, getting out of any checks. King is completely safe on h2, which is also a big plus for white. He doesn't have to worry about any perpetuals, so good move. Now trying to take king g6. He cannot take on f4 because of check, check, and check. And the queen is gone on a5. So he played king g6, and now f takes g5. Well, the queen cannot take because of rook g7. So king takes, but probably the best try here was to play f takes g5. Would have put up the most resistance. Rook c6, king f5, rook f7 check. Now king g4, rook c4 is mate. So king e5, and now rook g7, king d4, rook c g6. Yeah, white is winning this pawn. At least black's not losing both pawns. He can exchange this one, but this position is also lost. I checked it with table base because it's only 6 pieces are left on the board. It's already in the table base, and it says that white is winning in 60 moves. But it would have still been a lot of work for Kramnik to do. So after king takes g5, things are a little bit easier. Rook h7, threatening rook c g7, and rook takes h5. So f5, rook check, king f6, rook a7 with tempo, queen e4, rook a6 check. King has to go to e5 because king g5, rook g7 is mate. King e5, rook takes h5, and well, black is just losing the other pawn as well. There's nothing he can do, because as I said, this pawnlet game is completely hopeless. Would be even winning without a pawn on g3, but not without a pawn on g2. Just plays on king h3 and so on. This is of course completely winning. So king g6, rook check, king f6, rook e5, queen c2, check, king g7, rook h6. Well, white is pretty much just chasing the black king down to the back rank, and then already mating ideas come into play. And he doesn't, as I said, he doesn't have to worry about his king at all. It's completely safe here behind these pawns on g3 and g2. So queen c5, rook g6 check, king f8, rook h7. White has achieved his goal, and well, the game didn't last much longer. Queen f5, rook g7, queen e6, and rook e7. And Andreikin resigned. Well, for example, if he plays queen d5, just rook d7, and yeah, that's already it, because he cannot protect both squares h8 and d8. And where did messed up. I don't know, something is wrong now. Something messed up. Okay, anyway, we saw the end of the game. I could type it in now again, but there's no real point. So, a really strong performance by Kramnik. There were not many mistakes Andreikin made. It was, even for me, I mean, I could check the computer and I would see the evaluations by the computer. It was not easy to find the moment where the whole game kind of, where Kramnik got the advantage and moved on. So maybe it was really, from a practical point of view, not a good idea to go into his endgame. But well, how could you know, right? So strong performance by Kramnik, but still 3 games to go, and it's not over yet. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. Bye.